All right, y'all, we're going to take a tour of San Antonio's #1 place to live, Boerne, Texas. If it's not on your top places to live, then it will be once you watch this video. Be sure to stay tuned to the end to hear about the surprisingly low property tax rate. So let's get started. I'm Patricia Escobedo, your local San Antonio realtor. I create videos to help you learn what it's like to live, work, play, and love your life in San Antonio. So be sure to hit that subscribe button along with the bell to get notified every time I post a new video. Every day I have families just like yours reaching out about moving here. So if you're thinking about moving to the area, be sure to send me a text, give me a call, shoot me an email, or slide into my DMs. I've got your back when moving to San Antonio. With so many areas to choose from in San Antonio, we're gonna help you narrow them down, starting with this really small, quaint German Texas town called Boerne, Texas. So where exactly is Boerne? Boerne is located 30 miles north of San Antonio. Really, it's kind of like 30 miles north of downtown San Antonio. So not really like having to drive too far if you're trying to get to and from some of the major shopping areas we have here in San Antonio. Your main way into Boerne is going to be through Interstate 10 or I-10. So do expect some traffic in those areas during your rush hour periods, which would be your typical 8 a.m. traffic going to work, and about anywhere really starting about 4:30 till about 6:30 in the evening as far as your late evening traffic. There is a lot of construction in that area, so that might also add to some of the construction or the rush hour time or the traffic times and the delay to get home, but it's definitely worth living out there. If you are really just kind of over the big city living and the everyday hustle and bustle of what the big city has to offer, Boerne would be the ideal place to live just because it is a small town and it really gives you that small community vibe. Not a lot of people live here, but I will tell you that most of the people that live there for a very long time. So as far as, you know, being able to find a home, that existing homes that come back on the market or come on the market are kind of hard to find, but there is a lot of new development out there, so that's not too bad. But the nice thing about living in Boerne is really, I mean, if you're on I-10 and to get to Boerne, you're really only looking at about maybe a 15 to 20 minute drive to get to some of San Antonio's like major shopping areas. It's going to be off of I-10. Those areas would be something like the Rim, where you'll have a lot of really cool restaurants. You'll have one of our favorite whiskey bars called Rock and Rye. You do have a lot of shopping there also. So right across from the Rim, you're gonna have the shops at La Cantera, which will be our outdoor shopping mall. So it does get really hot. So I know we don't really like to go there if it's like in the hell of heat of summer. So again, I mean, everyone has their own preference, but I know we kind of try to avoid it, or we just really go to like the stores that we know we want to shop at that day. But the shops at La Cantera also has a couple of bars around it, a lot of restaurants. They have pretty cool, they have like this really cool little like bar area where you can kind of go and buy a cocktail and shop, and sip and shop is what they call it, right? So it's pretty cool to have that. But all in all, if you really want to have that small town vibe and you want access to the big city, then Boerne would be the perfect place for you to probably call home. So on top of having access to the big city, I feel like this is going to be one of my absolute favorite things about Boerne is the views. So you have these beautiful hill country views. You won't have these big, huge buildings like blocking views. It's really truly hill country. So you're going to have a lot of natural, really old, large oak trees, which is pretty common here in Texas. But these trees, you guys, are like gorgeous. Like, I'm one of those people where if I see a house with these big, beautiful trees, like I'm like, oh, I could totally live there. But that's just me. The only downfall about these oak trees or these cedar trees would be mountain cedar season does kind of come around, and if you're not used to it or you have allergies like we do, we are down for a couple of months throughout the year, but no problem. We do like to stay medicated, and we'll take our Claritin D or our nasal sprays, and that kind of helps us get through what we call cedar fever. So, and it's pretty crazy because you will see these huge clouds of mountain cedar kind of being released during the cedar season. But other than that, if that's something that you think you can deal with, the views in Boerne are absolutely stunning. They do have Boerne Lake, so you know, if you want to do that outdoorsy stuff, you do have that option out there to go fishing and swimming. I'm not too sure about boats and stuff like that. Some of the lakes here in Texas do not allow things like that, but I mean, it's just a little bit of research and you'll be able to find out if that's something that is allowed at Boerne Lake. Now, if you like nature trail walks or you like hiking and things like that, Boerne also does offer a nature trail. I'm not one that does anything like that, but it is an option for you if that's something that you would want to do. We did take the day to go out and really just explore Boerne and just to see what it had to offer, and we fell in love. Like, it was just, aside from like the views, the atmosphere was really cool. They have this really cute creek, and when we went, there were ducks, and I am terrified of ducks. So, or geese, either one. I just don't really like them. Yesterday, my fiance and I took the kids out, and we have a small duck pond in our community, and he wanted to take the kids to go feed the ducks, and I was terrified only because growing up we had this Sonic. I don't know if it's like a Texas thing, but it's a restaurant. It's a fast food restaurant that we had back home, and really throughout Texas we have them. So we had one that was called, or we nicknamed it Sonic on the Creek, and that creek had like demon ducks. So they would run after you the moment that they would hear you open the bag. Not for me, so I did not get down to try to feed the ducks the day that we were in Boerne, but they were cute to look at, but that's about as far as it'll get for me. So as far as like that stuff goes, you also will see a lot of like animals. Just be prepared. Again, because it's kind of in the hill country, you will have things like wild hogs. You will also have deer that will come and they'll graze like on your yard. There are a lot of people who like to put feed out, which is like dried deer corn, what hunters would put out to hunt deer. But a lot of people just put them out there like on their land, and then the deer kind of get to know like the schedule and when you're gonna put food out, and they'll come out and they'll graze, and they really won't come at you or anything, but they're just, you know, something nice about living in the hill country, because when you live in the city, you won't be seeing things like that. So again, we did spend the day out there. We really wanted to get boots on the ground, right? And figure out, you know, what is so wonderful about this city. And Main Street is going to be one of the main areas of where they have their strip mall. It's like strip mall, so that they'll have a lot of really cute boutiques. Like if you love some of that boutique-y type of clothing for women, I know I love things like that, especially if you're moving to Texas and you're really wanting to get kind of familiar with the rodeo scene and things like that, or even country concerts, which is something that we love to do. These boutiques have a lot of that really cool, like chic, boho feel type of clothing. But besides that, they're on that main street, so you'll have a lot of those boutiques. Then you'll have a couple of, quite a few actually, restaurants. We actually did go into a coffee shop. I think it is something that is based out of Austin, Texas. So they basically have their own, I guess they brew their own coffee, and they do the whole coffee beans and all that stuff. So roast coffee beans, I think that's what it's called. That was really cool to have, you know, just get down there and see what it was all about. I will tell you though, as far as if you're looking for a city with fun nightlife, Boerne does tend to shut down pretty early, so just be prepared, you know, for something like that. It'd probably be a little bit better if you like to do the day, like a kind of like a Sunday fun day, or if you like to day drink, which I think I prefer, especially now that I'm in my 30s. I don't like to stay up late all night and not be able to function in the morning because I do have kids. But really cool bars down there. We did see a couple. There was one really that stuck out to me, and it was one that had like, It was like a table and it had swings all around it. I thought that was so cool, and it was right on the creek or the river there in Boerne, the one with the demon ducks right there. So we didn't make any time to obviously stop and like have a drink or anything while we were there, but we did have time to stop and have lunch. Why not? We're making a day out of it. So we had lunch at this really cool restaurant that is attached to a boutique hotel. So the restaurant was called Peggy on the Green. That is the name of the restaurant. I will make sure that I include a photo of it, just so that you guys can see what it looks like. It was super cool. The service was amazing. Everyone was so friendly. I mean, even the host, every time I did get up and take a couple of photos while I was there and tried to get a little bit of footage of what was kind of around the area. And the host kept asking, you know, I think they kind of knew that we weren't from there, but he did make it a point to ask me, you know, if I was enjoying everything and how the service was. So I was really pleased to have, you know, been approached that way through even the host. But the food, guys, was amazing. I did have a mimosa while I was there. You can't really mess up a mimosa, so it was really good. But my fiance and a friend of ours, they both had margaritas, which they did like very much. So just to kind of give you like a little bit of an idea of like what to expect as far as like shopping and kind of the fun that happens in Boerne, but just again, keep in mind that it does shut down early. So if you're looking for that later night out, or you kind of want to hit the city, that's again part of the nice part of being in Boerne, is that you're not too far from the Rim and that nightlife that's in their area anywhere off of I-10. So if schools are important to you, Boerne, you are going to really want to consider it, because Boerne does have an A+ rated school as far as the public schools go, and that's coming from the Texas Education Agency. So that was really cool and really interesting to know. And you guys, oh my goodness, we drove around there. Obviously we like wanted to just kind of explore. There's two high schools in Boerne. We drove by one, and it's Boerne High School. It was insane. It is a beautiful, gorgeous building. Like I wish I would have gone to high school there. I went to high school in this really old high school in my border town of where I grew up in Del Rio. But I mean, I can totally see why people would love it, aside from it being beautiful. I did go to niche.com to see if I can get more information about Boerne, the school district, and just really kind of get an understanding. We do have some, you know, colleagues and friends that live in the area, and they speak highly of it, but I think it hits a little bit different when you can get a review or talk to an actual student, because they're the ones who are there all day, and having to deal with teachers and other students and things like that. And I know for us, when we first moved over here, our oldest was pretty upset with us because he was already in middle school, and he was, I think it was just more the fear of not knowing if he was going to fit in, which is kind of where I'm coming back to the niche.com website. You can actually go on there and read reviews from either parents, and actually I found one from a student who was a junior in high school, and she talks about how everybody was so welcoming and so helpful, that their counselors there at the school were outstanding and really just made her feel comfortable, as well as the students in the area. I do know, I think really like San Antonio as a whole and these suburb cities, they do a lot for the kids throughout the school year. Obviously during the pandemic, there was just, our kids really didn't get to do a lot, which I think is pretty much normal. Like everyone all over the country was really feeling it during the pandemic. But as soon as Texas lifted like the mask mandate and allowed students to go to school in person, we started seeing a lot more functions with the school districts. So they would, you know, they had a homecoming dance, or they had certain things like that for the kids to just really kind of re-socialize themselves. And I think that's super important, especially like, well, for me as a parent, like making sure that my kids are social to an extent, you know. But again, if schools are important to you and you have kids that are either in elementary school, middle school, or high school, really, really consider Boerne, because they are rated A+. So that was something I feel like was really important to go over with you guys. So if you're looking for something an area that is safe, that would be, Boerne is also going to be one of the safest communities you can live in, you know, whether it's the suburb or in San Antonio. I feel like a lot of the time people ask me, I get a lot of these questions of like, what's the crime like in San Antonio? It's kind of hard to answer because we are a large city. So my response to people, and again, it's just my own response and what I've seen just living here the years that I've lived here, is a lot of the crime that does happen is going to be more personal. So it's not going to be at random things like that. Yes, we have people who may break into a car and steal like your AirPods or things like that. But as far as like really like vicious crimes, I've not seen that happen like at random. I really feel like Boerne is going to be one of the safer ones also, because it's so like far out there. Like, who's going to want to drive that far and like go mess with someone? I don't know. That's my thought. But sure, I mean, safety is obviously going to be a big issue, so, or something, a main concern for everyone. So again, Boerne will be one of those safer areas to consider to call home. Now, the one thing that we also noticed when we were there is there was a lot of people, and it's super weird because going back to like the daytime life and what it's like downtown or the main area of Boerne, is we did go on a Friday, so we were kind of like, well, maybe that's why there's so many people out today. Guys, we saw like families with their like young kids out, and at the restaurants. I mean, we went, it was probably like right before lunchtime that we got there, and we were there all the way through like maybe like 5 or 6 o'clock. So we were able to actually see like what happens in Boerne, you know, during what would be the slower times of the day, and then, you know, later on into the evening. But what was pretty cool is that we saw a lot of people out there, like their families, and they had their kids out and stuff. So that was nice to be able to see that even during weekday, to find it was pretty lively during the day. Now, when we went into the communities, we saw a lot of kids outside playing. We actually saw a couple of track kids running, and they waved. So I think like that's gives you a lot of kind of what to expect, and the friendliness and the welcome, how people just welcome you there. That was also pretty cool to see. We saw older couples really just like walking. And then when we were down at downtown Boerne, we did see people feeding the ducks and people walking their pets and kind of stopping and greeting people. So I really like that. That's super important for us as far as, you know, having a family oriented community, just because we do have small children. So if that's something that you are interested in, be sure to check that out. The other thing I want to mention is that there are quite a few dog friendly restaurants there in Boerne, which was really like, I don't know, made me happy, right, to hear. We are dog lovers. We do have 2 dogs. One of them doesn't do so well in the car. The other one shakes the entire time we get him in the car. He is my baby. His name is Mac. He is a golden doodle. He's a little goofy. We call him Peanut sometimes because because he's goofy. But that made me really happy. So I think the next trip out to Boerne, we're going to be sure to bring Mac out with us, because why not? You know, he's a cute, goofy looking dog. So if you're now wondering what are the cost of homes in Boerne, so you can expect the cost of homes to start in the high 200s, but they do go well into the 800s, and there are a couple of $1 million homes. What to expect with those homes really is going to be, you do have a really good mix of the types of homes. So you're going to have your older homes that maybe have been completely renovated, and we have a lot of new development happening out over there. Your newer development will be a little bit more expensive, just because that's just kind of how it is right now. We did actually get to see a lot of really like gorgeous homes, and the outside of them were really nice. So I can only imagine what the inside of them looked like. There was one house that we kept passing by, and it had a massive like tree house in the backyard and things like that. And that was pretty nostalgic for me, because we had that growing up. My grandfather actually had a tree house for us when we were kids. So it kind of did bring some tears to my eyes, just remembering of all of those good times and being able to experience that as a kid. So again, I think this also goes back and shows just how family oriented these communities are, not really because of the treehouse, but because of how we saw everybody out there kind of walking and greeting and doing all of that. But yeah, so just keep in mind, I mean, prices do vary, and it's just like anywhere really in San Antonio, the prices can start, you know, in the high 200s, and you can and go well into the millions. So just kind of, again, like I said, keep that in mind. And of course, if you have questions, just reach out, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about the housing market in Boerne. So the other thing I do want to bring up, and we haven't been able to experience it, but I think after spending the day out in Boerne, we're definitely going to make sure that we are part of it this next year. So they do have, they go all out for Christmas. And I know this because my dad, I'm kind of regretting it now, but my dad had invited us to go do like Christmas in Boerne kind of thing, where they go all out, and they have the like downtown or like Main Street of Boerne gets like really like lit up with Christmas lights, and they have a parade, and they have a whole festival for Christmas, which I really do regret not doing it. But I mean, I've seen pictures online. I did some research. To just Google it if you want to and find out more information about their Christmas festival there in Boerne. They do also have an annual Corvette festival. Again, I am not into cars like that, but it seems like it would be kind of fun. It looks like they had vendors, food vendors. A lot of the boutiques were open, things like that. So if festivals is something that you would want to be part of, be sure to check that stuff out as well. You can go to like the Boerne, I think it's like the city of Boerne or like the Boerne government website, and they have like this whole pamphlet of how all the things that they have to offer there. That was pretty cool. I know here we have like Oktoberfest and things like that in San Antonio. Boerne does all those festivals as well. So again, if you want a smaller city and want all those festivals, definitely check that out. They also do have farmers markets, which was pretty cool to do if that's something that you're interested in. We like to go to the one, it's been a while. Prior, you know, to the pandemic, we would go out to the Pearl and do the farmers market out there. I have not been to the one in Boerne yet, but I really think, guys, like we're even considering at this point buying something out there. But I feel like every time we drive to a new area and we fall in love with it, we're like, okay, like just add that one to the list of places we might want to live. But so now I know I did say that I would go over the property tax rate. So this was pretty shocking to me. Like when I went in and I did research and I did everything I had to do on my end prior to making this video, I was very, very surprised that their tax rate, the lowest I saw, was 1.2. So in San Antonio, I have never seen anything that low. I think the lowest I've seen it would be a 1.85 or 1.87, and that's not even in Boerne, that's going to be in St. Hedwig. But that was like really awesome to see that would be something that I could potentially, you know, help you guys get into, something with a lower tax rate. I did see it range though. So the range was 1.2 and went up to 2.0. Again, still lower than a lot of places here in San Antonio. We are in Alamo Ranch currently, and our tax rate is 2.18. That's what we're sitting at right now currently in our own community. So just being able to see that the tax rates do range, but it is still lower than what Bexar County falls under. I will kind of like let you know though ahead of time is that there are some parts of Boerne that do fall under Bexar County, which the tax rate would be a little bit different. So really it would just be a matter of, if that's what's most important, then we would have to obviously do the research and find out what areas do fall between that 1.2 and that 2.0 tax rate. So I think we've covered everything that I wanted to go over with you guys, but remember, if you would like any more information about moving to Boerne or any other part of San Antonio, don't hesitate to give me a call, send me a text, shoot me an email, slide into my DMs, however you want to get a hold of me. I've got your back when moving to San Antonio. And as always, I appreciate you and all the love I've received. I'll see you on the next one.